Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by His Excellency Ambassador Hussien Hareedy, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. It's a very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, Madam.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us this afternoon. Let me start by talking about some of the recent developments with regards to Armenia's announcement that it is recognizing the state of Palestine, and Egypt has welcomed this announcement. The Foreign Ministry said it is a step in support of the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to end the Israeli occupation, establish an independent state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. How do you see this recent development, Your Excellency?
Well, of course, it's a positive step on the way of the establishment of an independent Palestinian state.
Yes.
Of course, and it comes less than a month after 4 European countries had already recognized the state of Palestine.
Yes.
Norway, Ireland, and Portugal, Spain.
Yes.
So I guess this is a move in the right direction. And of course now with the Armenian decision, now we have more than 140 countries who have already recognized the state of Palestine. So it's, as I said, this is very encouraging, very constructive, and I would expect that some other European countries would do the same in the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. Your Excellency, now Egypt has called on all influential international parties to really carry out and shoulder their moral responsibility towards the Palestinian people, to intervene, especially now as Gaza is facing unprecedented humanitarian crises with hunger, starvation, and an unprecedented attack on Palestinian civilians. How do you see this call, and where do you see the international community from this situation?
Well, when we speak about the international community, we have to be precise, we have to be accurate. Of course, theoretically speaking, there is the international community, but when it comes to various important and serious international questions, the position and the stance of the international community, whatever that refers to, varies. When you, for instance, the situation in Ukraine, there is no unified position on the part of the international community between comments as far as how to deal, not only how to deal with the crisis in Ukraine or the war in Ukraine, but how to go about reaching a diplomatic and a political solution to this crisis, okay? Yes. So this applies also to the situation in Palestine and the war that's going on in Gaza. That's one thing. But to be more precise, if the United Nations is a symbol or is a spokesman, so to speak, of the international community, I guess early this June, the Security Council adopted a resolution by 14 votes for and 1 abstention on the part of Russia that favors the roadmap that the United States President Joe Biden talked about in his remarks on May the 31st, talking about, and in which he said that this war must end, referring to the war in Gaza. And then there were, he talked about 3 stages in order to reach a permanent ceasefire in Gaza and start reconstruction. So this is a long shot. At the present moment, I guess it would be speaking about reconstruction efforts in Gaza, maybe would be a little bit early. Now the main thrust should be the reaching of a ceasefire in Gaza, something that unfortunately I don't think that it would take place soon.
Mhm. Indeed. Now, Your Excellency, since you mentioned the United Nations, they recently said it is Israel's responsibility to restore public order and safety in the Palestinian territory. We also saw the Secretary General Antonio Guterres saying that the strip has become almost lawless. Some of the aid trucks have been looted over the last few days as a result of the Israeli occupation forces' prevention of this aid getting to where it needs to go. How do you see this recent development, and how important is it for this aid, is in light of the humanitarian catastrophe, to reach the people in dire need of it?
I'm afraid, madam, that the Israelis want the situation in Gaza to be as dire as it is right now. For the sole purpose, the message from Israel to the people in Gaza is that you better leave Gaza. You better leave Gaza. Gaza is becoming inhabitable. Gaza has become, famine is widespread, and don't expect that the situation would change for the better in the foreseeable future. That's what the Israelis are doing right now in Gaza. And we have to recognize, we have to acknowledge that this is the ultimate objective of the Israelis, that it would push the Palestinians to leave Gaza willingly. We here, in the Arab world, we spoke about forced displacement of the Palestinians from Gaza. The Israelis are dealing with it in a very indirect and way, that by this war is entering its 9th month, with almost 38,000 Palestinians lost their lives. And I'm not going, let alone those wounded, that nearly the figure has reached 100,000 Gazans.
Yes.
So with this situation on the ground, I believe that the message is the Israelis want to push the Palestinians out of Gaza. Add to that, something happened in Washington that has drawn our attention in the context of what I've just said. That 70 American congressmen have signed a letter to the American administration requesting the administration to facilitate the issuance of visas to the Palestinians in Gaza who have relatives in the States, whether American citizens or Palestinians who have a legal status in the United States. So when I read this information, I said, this could be a door to open the gates for Palestinians in Gaza to apply for political asylum in the state. I don't have a figure for how many Americans of Palestinian origin, and I don't have a figure of how many Palestinians living in the state legally, that is to say that they have green cards. So these two categories, according to the request of the official request of the 70 American congressmen, are eligible to bring their loved ones, their relatives, to the United States, or to let them ask for political asylum in the United States. So this could be part of an overall plan that the majority of Palestinians in Gaza would leave the Strip and go either to the United States or to other countries around the world. So this is that. On the other hand, of course, there are the remarks that were made by the Israeli finance minister on June 8th, in which he said that the Israeli government, and with the approval of the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, has started between commas, the legalization, so to speak, of the ultimate annexation of the West Bank. Hello?
Yes, yes, Your Excellency.
Yes, madam. Yes. So these are the most disturbing
Urgent, yes.
developments in. So we have been concentrating on the situation in Gaza, and I understand why, of
Yes,
course.
yes.
I understand why. But we should look at the larger picture, madam.
Absolutely.
And the larger picture is not reassuring, I'm afraid to say.
Indeed, Your Excellency. I'll have to leave it at that. Your Excellency, Ambassador Hussien Hareedy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much, sir, for your time and your insight on today's edition of Arab Affairs. And we continue with our news where the United Nations said it is Israel's responsibility to restore public order and safety in the Palestinian territory so humanitarian aid could be delivered. We have the details. The United Nations said it is Israel's responsibility as the occupying power in the Gaza Strip to restore public order and safety in the Palestinian territory so humanitarian aid can be delivered. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said there is a total lawlessness in Gaza, where the UN has warned of a famine looming for the population of 2.3 million after more than 8 months of war in the Gaza Strip. Guterres told reporters that most of the trucks with humanitarian aid inside Gaza are now looted, adding that Israel has prevented the United Nations from using Palestinian civil police for aid security. He added there was total chaos in Gaza and no authority in most of the area. Israel's military, meanwhile, announced Sunday there would be a daily daytime pause in its attacks along a key road in southern Gaza, and the UN and aid groups use access to the Karem Abu Salem crossing from Israel. Meanwhile, the controversial U.S. effort to boost Gaza aid deliveries by building a temporary pier has faced repeated problems, with bad weather damaging the structure and causing other interruptions to the arrival of desperately needed assistance. More than 4,100 metric tons of aid has been delivered via the $230 million pier project so far, but it has only been operational for limited periods, falling short of President Biden's pledge that it would enable a massive increase in assistance reaching Gaza every day.